Why would anyone choose to sleep next to a pig? Sounds strange, right? But for medieval peasants, that was just another part of life. In this video, we're peeling back the layers of myths and fairy tales to show you what really happened in a single day of a medieval peasant's life. Forget kings, queens, and knights. This is about the people who kept the world running from the dirt up. We're diving straight into their gritty, raw, and intense daily grind. And if you're into real, down-to-earth history with none of the fluff, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Edutaining History channel. Waking up before sunrise. Why would someone leave a warm bed before the sun even thought about rising? Because if you were a peasant in medieval Europe, you didn't have a warm bed to begin with. Your bed was likely a sack of straw on a dirt floor, in a hut that smelled of smoke and sweat. You probably shared that space with your entire family, and sometimes animals. Privacy. Not even a dream. Comfort. That was for the rich. The second your eyes opened, it was time to move. No time for stretching or slow mornings. You had jobs to do and not enough daylight to do them. The rooster wasn't your alarm. The weight of survival was. Most peasants were up by 4 or 5 in the morning because the day ahead was long and every minute mattered. They had to be out working before the sun took over the sky, and that meant getting dressed in the same itchy clothes from the day before, maybe rinsing your face if you were near water, and grabbing a bite of whatever was lying around. Usually stale bread, sometimes a gulp of weak ale. Sounds rough? That was just the start. Getting ready for the day. How do you begin a day that promises nothing but pain? You just do. Medieval peasants didn't have soap, toothbrushes, or choices. They wore the same wool or linen clothes every day, itchy, dirty, and barely warm. Appearance didn't matter. Survival did. Breakfast wasn't relaxing. It was whatever you could grab. Stale bread, maybe cheese or an egg if you were lucky. And yes, ale in the morning, not for fun, but because the water could kill you. Weak ale was safer than rivers used as toilets. No time to linger. You dressed, ate fast, and headed to the fields. The brine didn't wait, and neither could you. Off to the fields. What keeps a person going when their body screams to stop? Hunger, responsibility, fear. The land wasn't optional. It was everything. From sunrise to sunset, peasants were out working it with nothing but basic tools and bare hands. Whether it was spring planting or autumn harvest, they had to be in those fields every single day. There were no tractors, just simple wooden plows dragged by oxen, if you were lucky enough to have any. Most of the time, it was you and your family pushing and digging through mud and rock. Rain didn't stop the work, neither did heat or cold. The land had to produce, or you didn't eat. And if you were a serf, that land didn't even belong to you. It belonged to the Lord, and you owed him a chunk of everything you grew. Even if your family was starving, the Lord still expected his share, and it couldn't pay. Well, that brought its own set of problems, daily struggles and survival. Why keep going when life never lets up? Because there's no other option. Medieval peasants lived with constant hunger. One bad harvest could mean starvation. Meals were basic, pottage made from grains, onions, maybe beans. Meat was rare. Bread was the staple, sometimes made with bark during famines. Food was uncertain, and disease was everywhere. With poor hygiene and no understanding of germs, even minor wounds could be fatal. You worked sunrise to sunset, ate just enough to function, then collapsed into sleep, then woke to do it again. It was harsh, but quitting wasn't an option. Your family depended on you to keep going. Tools, tasks, and teamwork. What keeps a village alive? Everyone is doing their part. Peasants couldn't survive alone. They needed each other. During harvest, the whole community worked together. Men, women, and children all had roles. Kids scared off birds and ran tools. Adults labored from dawn to dusk. At home, tasks never stopped, fixing roofs, feeding animals, hauling wood, grinding grain. Some had side skills like weaving or carpentry, trading goods or services for what they lacked. Life was a team effort. People shared tools, food, and burdens. Even without rest, they made time for one another. Cooperation wasn't just helpful, it was survival. Together, they endured what no one could face alone. Living conditions. Why would someone live in a home with no chimney and still call it shelter? Because it was better than nothing. A peasant's house was tiny, dark, and filled with smoke. Most homes were one-room huts made from mud and timber. The roofs were thatched straw, the floors, dirt, and the center was a hearth where all the cooking happened. But without a chimney, the smoke just hung in the air. Your eyes would sting, your clothes would smell, and in the cold seasons, you'd have to deal with freezing air and smoky lungs at the same time. Beds were straw mats. Furniture was basic, maybe a bench, a table if you were lucky. Windows were rare. Toilets didn't exist. You used the woods or a hole in the ground. Animals often shared your space because they were valuable and you couldn't leave them outside. It was cramped, it was harsh, but it was home. Faith and festivals. Why did people who had so little give so much time to prayer and celebration? Because hope mattered. Religion gave structure, it gave meaning to suffering. The church wasn't just a place to worship, it was the center of life. Even if you didn't understand the Latin spoken during Mass, you went. Everyone did. Sundays were for rest, not because people wanted to chill, but because they were told it was holy. Religious festivals were rare chances to breathe. They marked time and gave people a reason to celebrate. Christmas, Easter, local saint days. These were breaks from endless work. Villages came alive with music, dancing, games, and special food. For a moment, peasants could enjoy life. They dressed up, shared laughter, and felt something bigger than their daily grind. Faith wasn't just belief, it was fuel. Rules and power. Why follow rules that seem designed to keep you down? Because breaking them could ruin you. The feudal system was brutal. Lords owned the land. They controlled everything. They decided how much you paid in rent, what days you worked for them, and how much of your crops they took. If you broke a rule, even a small one, punishment came fast. Fines, beatings, or worse. You didn't have rights. The law was for the rich. But still, peasants found quiet ways to push back. They worked slower. They shared what they weren't supposed to. They helped each other behind the Lord's back. It wasn't rebellion, but it was resistance. Life wasn't fair. But people still fought to make it bearable. Family and community. Why does family mean everything when you have almost nothing? Because they're your lifeline. In medieval times, family wasn't just blood, it was survival. You worked, ate, and endured with them. Parents taught kids how to survive. Kids helped from the start. Neighbors became like family too. If someone got sick or injured, the whole village pitched in. Community wasn't extra, it was essential. Everyone depended on each other. Marriages were often practical, forming strong family units to face hardship together. And love? It existed in shared meals, fireside stories, and daily struggles. Life was tough, but with family and community, no one faced it completely alone. Winding down the day. What do you dream about when your days are filled with sweat and struggle? Peace, rest, a better tomorrow. As the sun went down, work finally paused. People came back home, sore and tired. Dinner was simple, more stew, more bread, maybe a dried apple or two. Light came from the fire or a single candle. People sat together, talked quietly, maybe prayed. Then they slept, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. The next day would be just as hard, but in those final moments of the day, there was something almost sacred. A pause, a breath, a reminder that they made it through, and they'd do it again. Not for glory, not for riches, but because that was life, real life, the kind that built the world we now live in. So now you've seen it, the dirt, the grind, the reality of life for medieval peasants. It wasn't shiny or heroic, but it was real. These were the people who did the hardest jobs with the fewest rewards. They didn't live for legends. They lived to survive, and their stories deserve to be remembered. If you felt even a bit closer to the past after hearing all this, then hit that subscribe button and be part of the Edutaining History channel. We tell the stories that matter. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.